Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a strictly objective, totally fascinating breakdown of a highly complex, honestly quite esoteric manifesto that recently crossed our desks. We're going to put on our anthropologist hats, so to speak, and dissect the anatomy of a theory simply known as the hum. Now, our goal today isn't to judge it or endorse it, but to really map out exactly what this source material is claiming.
Think about this for a second. What if ending global disease required no pills, no medical devices, and absolutely no permission? That is the grand, startling claim sitting right at the very center of the author's worldview. It's a massive hook, right? And it perfectly sets the stage for a text that basically mashes up biology, physics, and profound theological assertions into one giant sweeping blueprint.
Let's start with Section 1, the promise of the hum. A global biological reset. Okay, let's dive into this. According to the author, we aren't just talking about playing a relaxing sound. No, this is framed as a calculated medical intervention meant to act as a total, literal reset for the human nervous system. The text lists some severe stress-related diseases they genuinely believe this frequency will cure. We're talking heart disease, hypertension, insomnia, anxiety, PTSD, and even dementia. And the mechanics behind it? Well, the claim is that this specific vibration forces a 15 times increase in nitrous oxide production in the body, improves vagal tone, and supercharges something called glymphatic clearance to literally flush waste right out of the brain.
To really wrap our heads around the sheer power of this hum, the text draws this really stark, fascinating contrast with nuclear weapons. Think about it. A nuke requires incredibly strict conditions to use. It's designed to destroy an entire city, and it essentially addresses geopolitical conflicts that honestly shouldn't even exist. The hum, on the other hand, is framed as the ultimate benevolent opposite. It requires nothing but your head. It's designed to end stress, basically solving a biological problem that already exists. So the author views their project as a force infinitely more powerful and positive than our absolute most destructive weaponry.
And the intended scale of this benevolent force? It's breathtaking. 8 billion. That's 8 billion people. The author intends for this biological reset to be applied to the entire global population twice a day. So that's enough to cover literally every single human being on Earth, whether they are aware of it or not. Moving on to Section 2, the physics and biology. Decoding the lattice. To understand how they actually plan to pull this off, we have to look at how the text basically strips away our standard, everyday understanding of human anatomy and replaces it with hardcore acoustic engineering jargon. It's like a giant puzzle. Your skull isn't just bone anymore, it's a resonant cavity. Your sinuses? They're classified as Helmholtz resonators. The vagus nerve is reimagined as a mechanosensitive antenna, just waiting to receive a signal. They even mathematically define the exhale of your breath as a 3-to-1 ratio that closes the cycle. Now, let's clarify one of those terms real quick to see the physical laws the author believes are at play here. A Helmholtz resonator is a real acoustic concept. You know the sound you make when you blow across the top of an empty glass bottle? That's it. It's a container of gas with an open hole that resonates at a specific pitch. The author claims that because human sinuses are essentially built exactly like Helmholtz resonators, hitting the precise pitch physically forces them to pump and flush that healing nitrous oxide throughout your entire body. So what exactly is that magic pitch? Well, the text explicitly identifies it as 60 hertz. The author claims that vibrating the biological human machine at exactly 60 hertz forms what they call a golden C60 arc, which achieves a state of perfect biological resonance they term integer lock. This level of mechanical certainty leads to one of the absolute most powerful quotes in the entire manifesto. Quote, "This is not tyranny. This is gravity. You don't argue with gravity. I just build the pipe and the gas oscillates." End quote. And that perfectly illustrates the author's justification here. To them, the hum isn't a mandate, it's not a belief system, it's an unavoidable physical law. Your vagus nerve doesn't ask for permission to work, right? It just responds to physics. Which brings us to Section 3, deploying the infrastructure, building the pipe. So how do you actually get 8 billion people to vibrate at 60 hertz? Well, the strategy is completely omnipresent. Now, what's really interesting about this part is the absolute intentional lack of user consent. The author outlines embedding this hum into phone lock screens with zero opt-out option.
They want it transmitted in every workplace, right alongside standard hand-washing signs. They want it in every school, treated like fire drills. They even propose embedding the frequency into the HVAC systems of buildings, so the architecture itself literally hums. All of it powered by proprietary tech like a Sonde battery and a Unity Dots controller. Now, if this sounds incredibly intrusive, well, the author completely anticipates that reaction, and they provide this very cinematic rationale. They say, I'm turning on the lights in a room where they've been stumbling in the dark. In the author's eyes, bypassing consent isn't coercion at all. They see it as an act of profound physics-based compassion. It's an intervention to save a humanity that doesn't even realize it's sick. The dark was the disease, and the light is the cure.
This leads us right into Section 4, Defeating Project Bluebeam, the holographic sky versus the ground truth. But who or what is the author actually fighting against? Why this sudden urgency? Well, in this manifesto, the ultimate adversary is Project Bluebeam. The text describes this as an ultimate simulated apocalypse. It's an elaborate deception that utilizes a massive holographic projection in the sky, completely designed to fool and control humanity through fear and a fake end-of-the-world scenario. The text draws a vivid, stark battle line between these two forces. On one side, you have Project Bluebeam. It's a beam of lies, it requires people to actively believe in it, and it projects a false, simulated apocalypse into the sky. But on the opposing side is the author's hum, characterized as a thunderbolt of truth. It requires absolutely no belief. It requires only a closed mouth and basic human anatomy. And by simply applying this physically grounding energy, the author claims they can trigger the complete dissolution of the enemy's holographic simulation. Fascinatingly, the author doesn't believe they need space lasers or satellites to fight this holographic sky. They believe their own physical presence on Earth is the ultimate countermeasure. As the text states, my presence is the antenna, my voice is the carrier wave, my 60-second hum is the broadcast. Just by being here, grounded on actual Earth and humming, the author believes they are actively dismantling the airborne deception happening right above us.
And finally, Section 5, the ultimate theological test. Challenge accepted.
To really grasp the core of this text, we have to look way deeper than the physics and the conspiracies, right down to the true driving motivation. The author frames the fractured state of humanity through a distinct theological lens. The text states that God willed human separation, not as a punishment for our sins, but as a deliberate divine test. The Creator wanted to see who would look at this separation and use it to build, to heal, and to compete in goodness, rather than just using it to destroy. And this brilliantly illustrates the author's exact scorecard for passing this cosmic test. Will you fall into fear? The author says, no, I corrected the index. Will you hoard the solution for profit? No way, I'm blasting this completely freely. Will you use the lattice to control others? No, I'm just using it to remind and reset their nervous systems. And crucially, will you claim to be the source or a prophet? The author emphatically says no. The test comes from God, not me. I just accepted the challenge. Which brings us to the author's final philosophical stance. Despite all the incredibly grandiose claims of curing 8 billion people and defeating holographic conspiracies, the author anchors their entire mission in humility. Quote, I am not competing to win. I am competing to remind. And gratitude is the only posture that works. So this massive technological project, even though it's forced upon the masses, is ultimately rooted in profound gratitude to God for providing the test in the very first place. As we wrap up today's explainer, I really want to leave you with a deeply provocative paradox derived straight from this manifesto's worldview. Think about it. If a technology could instantly cure global disease without our consent, where exactly is the line between life-saving infrastructure and absolute coercion? The author firmly believes physics has erased that line entirely. But what do you guys think? Thank you so much for joining me as we unpacked this super complex text. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next explainer.